Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again to review Hell's Kitchen Season 22, Episode 9. That was Episode 9 in case you didn't get that. So, this episode, it's kind of sad because right off the bat, I was able to figure out what was going to happen. And it's all because at the beginning of this episode, you see Gladys. And that is, Sad Sack Sandra. It's one of her personalities that she likes to do. And she dresses up like this character. And she does this whole, comedy routine in the dorms. And it was funny, but I was in the back of my mind, I thought, she's going home. Because, it was so random and just kind of, out of nowhere. It reminded me a lot of in the first episode when they showed that what was that guy named? Tadpole? When they showed him riding the broom like he's doing the Quidditch game. It was the same type of thing where it's they're kind of poking fun at this person and showing them and focusing on them, because whenever you have a Hell's Kitchen episode where you see it's focusing on someone more than others, 9 times out of 10 they're going home. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to kind of highlight that person in their final day before they go home to show you their whole journey of, going home. And so, sadly, right off the bat, I kind of knew that she was going to go home. I knew that she would go home at some point, honestly, because she's been up for elimination 3 times until this episode, and this episode was her 4th time. So, it was no surprise there, unfortunately, because I liked her quite a bit. I felt like if this was real life, and you had a situation I don't know, if you could pick any chef to cook dinner for you, who would you pick? I feel like Sandra would be in the top 3 of the people in this season because her food is just it looks good. So after that, a toy joins the blue team. And then they both do the grocery store challenge. And Sammy did something very bold, as usual. She picked out the filet mignon. And at first I thought that was kind of idiotic. Because if you fumbled it, and because what happens is they have this judge, and she says what price she would pay. And so it's all about making a profit and spending the least amount of money. And, making the most out of that money that you spend and making a profit. And so, if Sammy fumbled that filet, then she would have spent more money for less profit. And so I was worried about her. But, as we've learned in the show, you should never, ever doubt Sammy. Even though it makes me sound like a fanboy, which I'm not. And then a toy picks out the chicken thigh. And I thought that was really smart. And, this episode, if anything, I appreciate it because it makes me like a toy a lot more than I did in any episode up to this point. And also last episode when she had to do that awful challenge right after she had that whole breakdown and she got screwed over in the other challenge. That was terrible. And, she, at the beginning of this episode, thank God she got put in the blue team because she was, ready to go full-on rogue like that other girl. What was that other girl? The lamb girl? Melissa? I can't remember. But she was ready to go full rogue, and I don't blame her. They had her go in another challenge after they already screwed her over. So, yeah, anyways, Jason also helped a toy with her potatoes because she was cooking them in this pan with scallops and shallots, not scallops. Oh, that is an L. That is a total L. I wrote scallops, guys. God, what is the deal with that? And garlic, and both of those things were burnt. So she was cooking these potatoes in a pan with burnt garlic and shallots. And so he had her move them over to another pan, and, that was definitely a save. And then the owner of the restaurants, who's the judge, she talks about how chicken thighs are a smart choice. And then Atoy does a great job with her chicken thighs. And honestly, I felt like that was one of the better looking dishes. I don't know if anyone else would agree, but I'm not really even a fan of chicken thighs. I'm a fan of women's thighs, but I'm not a fan of chicken thighs very much. Or turkey thighs. Like, we just got done with Thanksgiving. And it's really hilarious because we made this turkey tetrazzini, and like half the meat was from the chicken thighs, because I just, none of us touched the chicken thighs. And then it was even funnier because after we had the turkey tetrazzini, the next day I had the leftover turkey tetrazzini for lunch, and it gave me food poisoning. I don't know how that happens. Like, that was just so random and weird. Got food poisoning from eating leftovers of leftovers. Like, does that make any sense, guys? That's fucked up. And that was really weird yesterday. So anyways, now here comes what, in my opinion, one of the cringiest parts of the episode. Something that Safi would complain about if she was watching this show too. One of the, Danya, she cooked this steak dish, and she knew that she should have put something on there to brighten it up because it looked very dark and grimy, like a steakhouse dinner, and not like a restaurant fancy type of dinner. And it's really shitty because Gordon is like, oh, and you also cooked the steak too much, and so it is a medium and not a medium rare. Ugh, what a shame. Ugh. And I was like, ah, what a fucktard. Like, medium is, there's hardly any difference. Like, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I prefer medium steak or medium well. So, like, how does that devalue the dish? Because, like, they could just cook that same dish recipe and cook it medium rare. They don't have to use her specific steak. So I thought that was stupid, but I guess they were searching for things to complain about, so that they could, give the scores and have somebody win. I don't know. Jason did something kind of smart by using capstick, which I've never heard of before until I saw it on another YouTube channel a couple of weeks ago. And he got a high score. He got like a 48. And Heather Graham 2.0, aka Lay, she had what the judge called a dated-looking plate. And I thought that was kind of funny that they consider something to be dated, which was like, she had like the meat and everything, and like on like one side of the plate at the very edge. And then she had the sauce in like a circle. And then there's this whole big blank space in the plate where I don't know, I guess you just fucking put your fork there and just fucking stare at the blank space on the plate like a idiot. Like, I mean, why did they do that? I mean, that was so stupid. And I was like, you know what? She deserved to not get a good score for that because, like, come on. Like, who even cares if that's dated? Like, when was that ever in style? Like, why would you do that? Like, that's so dumb. Like, when you hand a plate to a customer, I would want a plate where there's stuff that's on the plate and you can see that you're getting a lot of food for the money that you spend. You're getting a lot of value out of getting this dish and not just getting this blank, empty plate with a little bit of meat and then this circle of sauce. Like, what a very, very pretentious. And Sammy's filet mignon gets the highest score of the night. Or, no, it didn't. Did it? I can't remember. I didn't write all the scores down because I don't fucking care. She got a really high score, though, and I was kind of surprised, but I shouldn't have been surprised because it's Sammy. And it looked pretty great. Jonathan's pork chops, though, surprisingly, that looked like the best dish of the night to me. And Gordon also agreed with me. So I thought that was nice. I wasn't expecting that because it looked really, really good. I can't remember. There was like sweet potato and apple and stuff on top of the pork chop. And I was like, oh, I want that right now. Give it to me. Okay, that sounded weird. And then Carmen's mental gymnastic ribeye is last. And I put, at least she chose the best steak cut. Mic drop. Ribeye steaks over filet mignon. Suck on that. Although it looked good, I would say that this is probably the least appetizing dish of the night. Even though it still looked good. So the best dish was Jonathan's, and the worst dish was Carmen's. And with that, the women's team loses again, unfortunately. The men's team gets to go to a trailer park palace in Joshua Tree, and the women have to make puff pastry and prep the beef Wellingtons, and so they have to also churn butter. That's part of it, and we'll talk about that. Now, Carmen, we all know that she's a fan of mental gymnastics. She says a couple of things. She says, I don't feel like crying anymore. Oh, wait, no, she doesn't. She says she doesn't feel like she's growing anymore. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? So now it seems like her mental gymnastics are failing her. Because if this was an earlier episode, she could have just explained it away with, oh, I'm obviously going to be growing in a couple of episodes. And then she's also like, obviously all those challenge losses aren't my fault, but I take the blame. I was like, that is such a Carmen thing to say. But then, sadly enough, Danya cries. And she has, like, a breakdown. Honestly, though, her dish still looked good. Like, I would order that at a restaurant. And send compliments to the chef. Which, by the way, I've only ever done that once in my whole life so far. It was for a dessert. And I sent my compliments to the chef, and I was like, God, I feel really retarded doing that. Like, for some reason, even though it's like a nice thing, I just felt really weird doing that. But, like, honestly, seeing this dish that Danya made, I would send my compliments back to the chef. So, you know, take that. That's a pretty, whatever. Carmen is also intimidated by churning butter. So she's having trouble with that. And I just started laughing, you know, watching her churn the butter. And, you know, I won't say anything else about that. But, you know, just watch that visual of her doing that. And then you can figure out why it's funny. And then the men's team, even with a toy there, they're really, really getting along. And so I was really happy to see that after a toy had all this trouble on the women's team, that she went over to the men's team and she's having a good time. But it also just shows that, like, the women's team this season is such a disaster. Like, even though you have all these great female chefs who individually, you know, they're really, really good, they're not a good team. And being on their team would drain the life out of you. You know, I couldn't imagine being on that team. Like, I'd rather be in the sausage fest of the men's team and deal with Jason being like, I'm better than you. I'd rather deal with that than the constant losing, all the challenges and the services. Like, fuck that. That sounds like a nightmare. And so the women's team, they do something too, where they put ice in the butter to make it like turn to butter faster or something as they churn it. I couldn't. They only showed it for like a split second, but it was so hilarious because Chef Christina saw them doing that, and she started breaking down laughing. And like, I've never seen that woman laugh as much as she did in this moment, and she was just laughing her head off at like for an entire minute at like them doing that, because like by doing that, apparently it made the churning of the butter take like 1,000 times longer than it would have if they didn't have that in there. And I thought like, oh, this is terrible. Like, basically this season is like torture porn, where like you just watch these girls get tortured the whole season by like constantly losing and constantly just doing these things that like, just, I mean, come on, like they couldn't even like get through their punishment without losing in some way, without doing something to their detriment in some way. So I feel like that's what this season is going to be remembered for. Even if whoever wins, I don't know, probably be Sammy or Jonathan, I don't know. Whomever wins, no matter who wins, when people look back on this season, they're going to say, this is the season with the terrible women's team where they lose the whole season, and then the men's team wasn't that great either, but they had a couple of good ones like Demir and Jonathan. And that's going to be it. I guarantee it. I make a bet with you guys. I bet you like $1,000 that I don't have that's what this season will be remembered for. And then they do service, and a toy has a coughing attack like Safi. When she's on a video with me, that's constantly what she does now because of her medication. But a toy, she tasted the risotto so fast that she got the rice stuck in her throat. And I thought that was kind of funny and kind of sad. I mean, see what I mean, guys? Just like at every turn in this season, like one of the women has something bad happen to them. Like, it's terrible. But on the bright side, Sad Sack Sandra was doing a great job with the Wellingtons. Both kitchens were doing a great job. And then all of a sudden, Gordon threw a wrench in the thing. And he said the first team that finishes is going to be the one that wins the service. And I knew this was another bad idea, because as soon as you do that, you're going to make people rush. And then the person who rushes the most and then does a bad job because they're rushing and trying to appease you is going to get sent home, even though they don't deserve to. I guess he just had to, because otherwise he wouldn't have been able to send anyone home. So Sad Sack Sandra, she sends up a raw Wellington, and then the blue team sends up a raw salmon. No surprise, though, that rushing both teams makes them both screw up. And then Carmen, this was probably like the most underrated moment of the night, because they didn't even mention this moment in the dorms. Carmen took that raw Wellington after it was being reheated for like a minute, and she took it out and she took it up to Gordon, and she said she touched it and it's not cold anymore. And you could clearly see that it was still raw, and Gordon had to send it back again. Like, seriously? Like, that just made Sandra look worse, and that was Carmen's fault. And I'm not saying that Carmen deserved to go home, because obviously she would never deserve to go home. Her gymnastics and her brain will not ever allow that scenario. But seriously, like, what was the deal with that? knowingly taking up a Raw Wellington. That was really bad. But as we suspected, the blue team won again. And Sad Sack Sandra gets the Wellington up at the last minute, and she is really sad. And then I said, too, she is probably going home because they won't send home a troublemaker like Carmen because it will take away from the entertainment. So she says that she's running out of steam. But then I thought what she said was really, really appropriate because she said the final 2 minutes canceled out the rest of that great service. And I thought that's a really good point. You know, the fact that these people, both teams did really good services. But just because of that last 2 minutes, it cancels everything out. And I was like, I know, like that was a terrible thing to do to them. So Sandra and Danya are nominated. They are both asked who's the weakest on the red team. Danya says that Sandra is obviously the weakest, even though she didn't want to say anybody. I will say that, but she said Sandra. And then Sandra said that she nominated herself and Danya. Now, this is the fucked up part, the really fucked up part. Gordon got mad, and everybody else did too. I was wondering, what are you getting mad at here? They got mad that Sad Sack Sandra took accountability for her action, and she said that she nominated herself. I was like, wait a second, how does that make her a weak chef? Like, she was admitting that she knows that she messed up there. That doesn't mean that she's saying that she's the weakest chef on the red team. So I thought that was stupid. That was really, really stupid that they're like twisting that around to make it seem like she was saying that she was the weakest. She never said that at all. She just said that she nominated herself and Danya because they're the ones who were the weakest of the night. Like, they did the worst in service. So he got mad that she took accountability and he sent her home. But I knew it after they focused in on her so much throughout the episode. The whole Gladys thing at the beginning. I knew she was going home. And then he almost sends home Danya. And it's like, no, get back in line and get your shit together. And I was like, it's so nice that she got this easy pass, even though she didn't really take accountability for being weak in the service. Because, like, at least Sad Sack Sandra admitted that she did badly. But at no point in that elimination did Danya ever say, I was off my game because I did badly in the challenge. And that's my fault, chef. I'll do better next time, chef. You know, like, I expected her to say something like that, but she never does. And I was like, at least Sandra admitted that she did a bad job. So this episode, I think it's a bit frustrating. So I'm going to give it a C-. It's just because of Sandra getting eliminated and that being frustrating, and the fact that, like, I was able to predict that right from the opening minutes of the episode. So, yeah, I'm just kind of frustrated by that. Like, I wish that Sandra had gotten sent home for a justified reason other than, like, being rushed and for the sake of, like, you know, whichever team finishes first wins. Stupid. But I still really like the show. I still enjoy watching this episode. It's just that one thing overshadows the rest of the episode, you know. So anyways, please like this video and comment and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest Hell's Kitchen videos. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.